Hello out there and welcome to the Inherited Map. My name is Jay and today's dad that we're highlighting is Desmond. I've known Des for almost 20 years now. When I was a college administrator, Des was a student. So I then knew Des met him I believe his sophomore year. So I knew him from his sophomore year through graduation. And Des has been married for 14 years. He married his college sweetheart and together they have two kids, a 12-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. One of the first questions I asked Des was I wanted him to highlight one of the lessons that he learned from his dad, and this is what he had to share.
So I think the one lesson and the only lesson
Mm.
that I took for him that was direct, like direct. There's a lot of indirect lessons that I've gotten from him, but the first direct lesson I think I've gotten from him was you never want to burn your bridges with anybody. Um, and that's one thing I noticed I've carried into my now adult life, where I've if I knew something wasn't for me, I realized that, but I also left with grace and no regrets and thankfulness and just understanding that what's there for me is there and what's not is not.
Des's parents divorced at a young age. In his own words, it was something that needed to happen. They just weren't meant to be married. Now, very common, limited his interaction with his dad, and this is what he had to say about that impact on him.
Yeah, so I we have a very I guess strange relationship. So for more context, my parents got divorced a number of years ago. Um, I think they've probably should have gotten divorced, and not just to say it like in a negative way, but they probably should have gotten divorced a long time ago. I think because my father, as great as a person he is, wasn't the greatest father. So the lessons that I've learned were, when I say indirect, it was what not to do.
Yeah.
When I become a father. Um, and me and him have, and I've long since forgiven him. And I see him for the person that he is, but I also know not to expect much.
So, in talking about the not so positive impact that his dad had on him, he was able to reflect and talk a little bit more about his dad's upbringing and how that impacted his dad and ultimately impacted his take on being a dad and how Des kind of takes that into consideration. This is what he had to say about that.
So I know when it comes to, and I it took me a while to be able to like kind of forgive him with certain things, because I had to realize he never knew who his father was. Like his father was his mother had relationships with different men. He has his brothers are all half brothers. They don't have the same father. So we've come from a lot of from flawed relationships. So to expect him to be the father that I would like him to be was asking something that he doesn't even know exists. So I That's why I was able to kind of see that and forgive him, because I was like, I'm expecting something out of someone that never, doesn't even probably know how to do that. And I learned, okay, for me to break this generational cycle that we've had for many years, I got to do something different. So I have to, whether it comes to like show up for my son, show up for my daughter, even when the times when I'm extremely tired and I probably don't want to be there anyway, I got to show up. Um, Treat my wife better, as a mother, so they can see like a loving relationship. Um, Teach my kids about responsibility and when it comes to like picking up after themselves, helping their mother with some of the things that she may need. So it's not just one person doing every single thing in the house and then expected to work outside. So just a lot of those different areas, trying to make sure that I do differently.
Being a father of two, a son and a daughter, I asked him if he kind of approached fatherhood differently with each of them, especially in the context of one being a son and the other being a daughter. And this is what he had to say about that.
I think you do. You know, I think you definitely do. I mean, I look at my son, and I sometimes even treat my son differently. And not that I'm like trying to. I think it's like a gender. It could be genders. Like roles and what we know. Like I know my son. I look at him like I myself. So I'm gonna like. I want him to be better. I really want him to be better than I was, and I don't want him to. There's times he shows, oh, he doesn't pick up his room and he's not as disciplined, and I'm like, and I get on him for that, but then I won't do that for my daughters because my daughter is a little bit different because I'm like, I do treat her a little bit different, um, because I feel like yes, she is a girl and maybe she needs more. The tone should be lower, and I should. It's more caressing, and whereas my son, not so much. And my wife actually reminded me too. Like, Des, your son needs affection just like your daughter gets the affection.
So recently, Des shared that his wife told him, "Listen, your son needs affection too," and obviously there's a lot of truth in that. And when she told him that, he's been able to really reflect on that, and as a result, he's way more cognizant of the fact that he needs to be more emotionally available to his son, and he needs to show him that type of affection as a result, so that again, as men, as males, we tend to tell our sons to walk it off, to toughen up, and treat our daughters as if they're princesses and breakable and things like that. And in doing so, obviously, it affirms certain stereotypes and impacts their socialization. So it was a great conversation. He said that he was able to have with his wife, and he's definitely been a lot more aware of that in his recent interactions with his son.
I didn't realize that I wasn't doing it until my wife corrected me and was like, listen, you're not, you didn't get that. So, like, um, you should be doing that for your son. He needs it just as much as your daughter needs it. And when I used to, like, if I was sitting down and on the couch or just kind of sitting on a chair, he would kind of like kind of come near me, put his head under my arm. And at first I was like, I wasn't responding to his movement. I was kind of like, oh, what is he doing? But I was like, I had to be like, oh, I have to give him affection. Like he needs that. And I that's something that I couldn't grasp until my wife would have to keep reminding me, like, you have to show him affection. You got to show him that physical affection and physical touch. And he does yearn for that, and he like it's like he wants it, and so I'm definitely make sure that once I like every night if I'm gonna kiss my daughter goodnight, I go to my son and I kiss him goodnight, or I'll hug him and I'll say I'm proud of him. So like he shows me that he needs that, and he reminds me that.
So I really want to thank Desmond for taking the opportunity to sit down with me. Again, as I noted at the beginning of the episode, having known him and seeing how he was when he was 18, 19 years old, and seeing what he's grown into, it's very, very impressive. and be very meaningful for me. Very meaningful to see someone who I always knew had all of this potential, and I knew that once he matured and kind of grew into who he was, that he was going to do all of these things that he's done, all the professional successes that he shared with me, and more importantly, the personal achievements and getting married and becoming a father, and hearing him kind of reflect on his influences and such. It was just a really worthwhile conversation, and I want to thank him, and I definitely want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I hope that you catch us on the next episode of the Inherited Map.